Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Monday, the 30th day of September, year of our Lord 2019. Welcome to the John Moore Show. We begin our shows with something that should be done, quite frankly, in every schoolroom in America, every day of the week. That would be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prepper tip of the day, I'll encourage everybody to inventory their stored food and rotate their stored food. Very important. You don't want some unpleasant surprises in the future when you need it, so go ahead and do those things. This is Farmers Monday. We have patient waiting in the green room, my friend Sam Andrews. Sam is the proprietor of Freedom Center USA. We're going to talk about anything and everything to do with rifles, shotguns, pistols, ammunition, training, and so forth. And we begin with our firearms tip of the week. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, John. How are you, sir?
If I felt any better, it wouldn't be illegal. How about yourself?
Well, I'm feeling old and exhausted. We poured 6 new concrete benches at the Freedom Center range the last 4 days, so I've been doing concrete work, and my back is reminding me how old I am.
Well, you can be 20 years old and have a stiff back for doing that kind of hard manual labor. Of course, the contractor doing the work is one of my listeners and one of our supporters here at Republic Broadcasting. And those concrete benches will basically last forever, won't they?
We built the most fantastic, durable benches. You know, normally when you pour concrete, you pour about 3,000 PSI concrete. Well, we built the legs, poured the legs into a mold that filled up past the legs to about half the top. And then we took some really special concrete that's 16,000 PSI. And we mixed a sand and mixture of that for the top of the bench, and it is really hard and really tough. And it hardens to about 8,000 PSI in about 4 hours.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing those next time I'm down there. Fantastic. Well, what would the firearms tip of the week be, sir?
Well, I've had a number of discussions in the past week with local people here about equipment. And I've noticed this trend towards the Ford, Chevy, Dodge sort of pissing contest way of thinking. And I really want people to stop doing that. I think you're doing yourself a huge disservice. In the gun industry, when you look at equipment, brand loyalty should mean nothing to you. You should look at the engineering of the system that you're buying. You should look at the material selection, the quality of the machine work, look at the product itself, and make a decision on what works best for you. Stay away from the brand loyal way of thinking. That kind of tribalism.
I need to interrupt you. I need to interrupt you. When I get together with my high school classmates, the Ford, Chevy, Dodge mantra begins instantly, just like it was half a century ago. This is an Ozark tradition. You can't question an Ozark tradition.
I'll tell you, it's amazing. You know, 50 years ago,
nobody takes it seriously, by the way. Or maybe some
they do with their
some
they do with their firearms.
Some do.
These people get upset when you tell them their Leopold scope won't work for what you're trying to do at long range. Boy, they get mad.
Yep.
Because their granddaddy told them that Leopold were the best scopes in the world.
Right.
But, I would say, well, does it have a parallax knob? No. Does it have a strong erector tube spring? No. Does it check any of the boxes that we need for a long-range scope to function properly? No. Okay, then maybe let's look at a different brand or a different type of scope within the brand that you're so loyal to.
Well, whatever it takes to get the job done. And I understand because I deal with the same thing all the time myself. And, of course, some of my neighbors, a scope is a scope. If it's a telescopic scope on a rifle, that's the only thing they're concerned about. They don't care who made it or what quality it is or anything else.
I think it's difficult for people that don't want to take the time and test. And, not everybody can test different brands of scopes. They don't have the resources or the opportunity. But if you talk to some of the better shooters in the world, or you call people like us at the Freedom Center where we test everything, it becomes a very useful thing to listen to their experiences, what has worked for them, and even more importantly, what may have failed for them at the process that they're trying to put together.
Absolutely. Well, benefiting from somebody else's experience is it's hard to put a price tag on that. And I learned that many, many years ago to question men or women, depending on what the expertise was about whatever it might be I was interested in, and make the learning curve incredibly steeper and more efficient.
We had a gentleman in a long-range hunting class a few weekends ago, and he had a nice rifle and really good ammo, and he had a really subpar scope, and the scope failed for him in the class, so we gave him a different scope so he could finish the class, and it was amazing how stubborn he was about the brand of scope that he bought. And I thought to myself, that just doesn't make any sense. This guy's way too smart for this. Well, he sent the scope that broke back to the manufacturer. And he got it replaced with a brand new scope, and he's not even taking it out of the box. He's selling it. I had a conversation with him, and I explained to him that my grandfather taught me two really valuable things. One is never make the same mistake twice. That's a really important thing, is to if you make a mistake, admit your mistake and don't make it a second time. Because if you make it a second time, it's a choice. It's not a mistake anymore. And that was a valuable thing. And the other thing that he taught me was my grandfather taught me to test things, figure things out for yourself, prove it to yourself one way or another, create a scientific test that you can repeat and know for sure. And those are that's really good advice, and I wish people would take those things to heart and make them happen in their scope choices and in their equipment choices for firearms.
Absolutely. Well, that would be well advised if people could do that. If they're not able to, and don't have the resources to be testing scopes, they need to rely on people who do have the resources, don't they?
Yeah, and I have so many people say, well, my grandfather said, or my daddy said that Leopold is the best scope. And I look at him and I say, you know what my grandfather said? My grandfather said to test that Leopold scope and see if it works before you bet your life on it.
That's good advice. That's real good advice. Okay. Well, on the national scene, the Democrats continue to outright call for gun confiscation, which is apparently, and since you're in the business, led to a dramatic increase in firearm sales, hasn't it?
Dramatic increase, and I don't know if you saw the news of Trump's tweet, but Trump repeated a tweet by a pastor from Texas. And this is the tweet. The pastor's name is Robert Jeffress, Jeffress. If the Democrats are successful in removing the president, which they never will be, it will cause a civil war-like fracture in this nation from which our nation and our country will never heal. Trump repeated that tweet. Now, so here we have the President of the United States basically agreeing with what you've been saying and what I've been saying for how many years?
Well, apparently it's become a fact of life now. I don't want to see that, but it would certainly be, if that scenario did play out, it would be the prime time for our real enemies, the Russians and the Chinese, to take advantage of it, wouldn't they?
Well, it would make this country vulnerable beyond belief. Civil war is the most horrific of all things. It is to be avoided. It is a last resort. And the problem is that that's what the Democrats are driving us to. They're trying to, the people that push the buttons of the Democrats and the deep state Republicans are pushing this country towards a civil war. And it's an ugly thing, and it's about to get a lot uglier, and we need to stop it. We need to prevent civil war from happening. And there's a Republican named Adam Kinzinger from Illinois. So if you're a listener from Illinois, call this representative of yours and ream him out, because he criticized Trump for telling the truth. And we don't avoid problems by hiding behind the truth or never telling the truth. We avoid problems by speaking the truth, by living the truth, and by doing the right thing. And anyone that's going to criticize Trump, and I've criticized Trump on a number of issues, but anybody who's going to criticize Trump for speaking the truth, they need to be voted out. They need to be primaried, and you need to get somebody else in there with a brain.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, the deep state, the left, is prepared to destroy the country to achieve their goal, aren't they?
Yeah, and we need to understand what that goal is. They want population reduction. They want the world's population to go from 8 billion to under 2 billion. They believe that they can now live comfortably with robots and less than 2 billion people on their planet. See, they see Earth as their planet. They don't want
That's
you
right.
on it.
That's right.
And if you understand that it's a strategy of population reduction to bring them to a position of total control.
That's absolutely true. And that's, I recall a statement by Hillary Clinton, this is quite a few years ago, talking about the interstate highway as her highway. How she was a bit distressed that they were allowing all these people on her highway, or words to that effect. Well, in the meantime, people need to get ready for whatever's coming at us, prepare, be properly armed, properly trained with good quality equipment that they're very familiar with, that can preserve life and defend innocent life and defend property. All those things need to be done now before the fact, don't they, Sam?
Well, I think that's absolutely critical, but even more, it's not just critical if there is a civil war. It's critical to avoiding a civil war. And this is what people really need to understand is when they ask me, well, why do I need a firearm? Why do I need more than 40 rounds of ammunition? Why do I need 8 magazines? Why can't 2 magazines be good enough? And I asked them this question. I said, let's say you're walking down the streets of Chicago. You and your family are visiting. You're walking down the streets with your wife and your 2 daughters, and you get confronted with 3 gang members. By the way, they're armed with knives. Now, they want to take one of your kids, all of your money, kill you, and rape your wife. So a negotiation begins. Now, do you want to negotiate with a gun in your hand from a position of strength, or do you just want to be a victim? And it's as fundamental as that. If you have, and people in your community have, firearms, ammunition, supplies, and you can negotiate from a position of strength, we can avoid civil war in this country. And that would be a huge blessing.
Absolutely. Well, in that confrontation, I would move the women behind me, draw my weapon, and slowly move away from them, ready to drop them if they made any move in my direction. That's what I would do. But everybody's going to have their own solution, aren't they?
Well, the overarching point that I'm trying to make is that it's very, very important for Americans to not only be capable of defending themselves, capable of defending their wife and their kids, their families, but their communities. And if you want to avoid civil war, you need to be in a position, and other men and women in your community need to be in a position to negotiate from a position of strength. That's the only way we avoid major conflict in this country, is if good people can negotiate from a position of strength. Good things happen. Now, I don't know if you know about the Star Wars defense that Ronald Reagan created, but on a strategic level, this is a great example of what I'm talking about. We had a Star Wars defense, a space-based missile defense system being worked on by some of our top contractors, top companies in the United States. And what was terribly interesting was the fact that they were working on it, the fact that the Russians were spying on it, the fact that the Russians knew that we weren't that far away from having it implemented, or at least we made them believe that, allowed Ronald Reagan to go and negotiate with the Russians and avoid conflict with the Russians. I don't know if you remember the SALT I and SALT II treaties that were signed,
right.
But that's how we got trust but verify with the Russians, was Ronald Reagan negotiating from a position of strength, perceived by the Russians no less, and that's what got us into a situation where we could avoid conflict with the Russians. And there were a lot of reasons for conflict with the Russians.
And there still are, and the Russians have never lived up to the conditions under the SALT treaties and continue to violate them. They now have hundreds of, they've been looking into and developing, they now have a very large inventory of hundreds of nuclear weapons that put out almost no radiation, almost none. That would be great for taking out command and control and not destroying what they really want, which is the agricultural land of this country and the infrastructure that allows it to be harvested, transported, and stored, and so forth. I don't want to go down that road too much on Firearms Monday, but people do need to be aware that we have very serious enemies. I think that's the bottom line, isn't it, Sam?
Well, I think if you're asking yourself, why do I need a gun? Why do I need ammunition? Why do I need training? The real answer from a strategic level is, not a tactical level, is you and your community as a whole need to be able to negotiate with evil from a position of strength, not from a position of being a complete victim. And that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Here's our break. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
More here on Monday, the last day of September the 30th. We're going on a cruise, a little R&R for all of us. Time to get away. It could be romantic if you choose it to be. We're leaving Florida on February the 9th, Saturday, returning a week later on the 16th. It'll be a lot of fun. Leon Green will be with us. We hope to find out that Sam and his wife can be with us also. We hope to find that out soon. In the meantime, get all the details at my website at thelibertyman.com. Or you can call my cruise director, Betsy Murphy. She'd be glad to mail you a full-color brochure. Betsy's telephone number is 636-530-9502. I say again, 636-530-9502. Visiting with Sam Andrews, the proprietor of Freedom Center USA. The Facebook page is Freedom Center USA. The telephone number down in beautiful Lebanon, Missouri is 417-718-2597. Let's continue, Sam.
Well, Well, we had some exciting improvements started at the Freedom Center Range. We're building what I like to call a safer deck. We had planned for months to pour concrete on the firing line for shooters to walk on. And I just woke up one night and I thought, that's a mistake. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build a sand trap, and we're going to put a cedar deck above it. If someone has a negligent discharge in the downward direction, we'll have that bullet will go through cedar. It'll go through 10.5 inches of sand, and then into 3/8-inch rock, and it will actually absorb the energy of the bullet, and that will make it much safer for the guy shooting off the firing line.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know of a range in the country that has a sand trap to walk on, has a bullet trap to walk on, and I think that is probably a really cool thing, because over the years I've probably seen 7 or 8 negligent discharges, and several of them have been into the ground. I was at a gun show on a concrete floor, and a guy negligently discharged a gun he was looking at. Have no idea why there was ammunition in that gun at a gun show. But he negligently discharged his weapon, and it blew fragments into several people's legs.
I believe that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's one of the reasons that with these steel plates that guys wear for armor, they put this truck bed liner in it to help contain the splatter. It doesn't stop the splatter, but it helps contain it. And that splatter, those fragments, that's basically the same as a hand grenade, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. The fragments are extremely dangerous, and that's an interesting point you bring up. I will just tell everybody, and be happy to call if you own a company that builds steel plates. Call me, because I'd like to ream you out. I think that steel armor plates are about the worst thing you could put on a person. When a lot of people don't understand this, but when a rifle bullet hits a plate, it hits so hard it can shock your heart to not beat. And a lot of people don't understand that. So if you're wearing a steel plate, people say, well, at least if I get hit with a rifle bullet, I'm still alive. I said, well, only if there's a paramedic there to restart your heart for you.
Right.
And people don't really understand the dynamics of the energy and how it gets transferred into the torso. But if you take a direct hit on a steel chest plate, it literally could stop your heart. And the bullet never penetrated. Maybe frags went into your chin, maybe they went into your neck, maybe you had your knees bent and the frags went into your quads, maybe one of them cut your femoral artery. I mean, there's all kinds of problems that can happen with steel chest plates.
Lots of problems. Personally, I'll take the trauma from the plate being hit as opposed to the bullet going through my chest cavity. That would be my choice.
Well, and I will tell you this. It's the technology on armor plates has gotten to the point on a level 3+ plate where you can absorb the energy and you have padding in the back to distribute the energy so the impact doesn't stop your heart and the bullet doesn't. You can have the best of both worlds for about $60 more.
Well, there you go. That sounds like a good plan to me. Absolutely.
Not all chest plates are created equal, and understanding the differences can make a big difference.
If people need body armor, is that something you can help them acquire there at Freedom Center USA?
Yep, we buy body armor all the time.
All right. And gas masks, too?
Yep, we buy really super high-quality gas masks, the best body armor. And when you're looking at body armor, and here's how I set up my own rig. I have a choice on the level 3A soft armor, which stops pistol rounds, not rifle rounds.
Right.
But in my vest system, I can wear soft body armor underneath my chest plates. And I have a choice with my soft body armor. I can buy the very thin, light level 3A that's really tough and will stop a handgun round, or I can buy the thicker stuff that weighs about 11 ounces more. I choose the thicker stuff. And the reason why, I'll tell you at the end of the...
Okay, we got a break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Monday, the 30th of September. A lot of things at my website at thelibertyman.com. If you want to keep up to date on what's going on with geopolitical matters, scroll down my homepage there, and where it says in red letters, Open Source Intelligence. Written daily by a friend of mine, former counterintelligence officer. Very excellent, dozens of articles that will keep you up to date on what's going on all over the planet. You need to check that out on a daily basis. If you have issues with sleep, not getting a great night's sleep, like I do every night, I sleep like a small child every night because I use my energy cleaner. You can also. You can. You have issues with pain, arthritis pain, get an energy cleaner. Wake up pain-free like I do every morning. $285 shipping included to American zip codes. Mattress pads that go with it, well, they do vary in price, of course. We got twin size, full, queen, king, California king, the small travel size that I use when I'm on my road trips. Everything's right there at my website where you can place your order using MasterCard, Visa. You can use PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online. You can also call my toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. This is Firearms Monday. Visiting with Sam Andrews, the proprietor of Freedom Center USA. That Facebook page is Freedom Center USA. The telephone number down there in Lebanon is 417-718-2597. Let's continue, Sam.
I think we were talking about chest plates.
Yes, sir.
And the different technologies that are out there. You can buy A550, A500 steel plates, which we don't recommend. Or you can buy hybrid plates that have fibers and layers of polymer. Or you can buy a high-density polymer plate with certain particles mixed in. Those are probably the lightest technology that you can. It's what the SEAL team guys are using now, but the high-density polymers, because they weigh very little and they can stop a 300 Win Mag.
No kidding.
But, yeah, the bottom line is you need.
Do you have those for sale? Do you have those for sale at your place?
Yeah, we can get them. It takes a few weeks when we order them. It's a lot of stuff we can order in a day or two and have it in if we don't have it in stock. But the real high-end plates might take 2 to 6 weeks to get in. But if you want the lightest, best performing stuff, we can certainly get it for you. Right.
Well, it's not too long compared to getting a suppressor. It's not long at all.
Yeah, about a tenth of the time it takes to get a suppressor in your hands with the current laws, which, by the way, need to be changed because they're unconstitutional. But what I want to impress on people is there's certain things you need to look for in a chest plate. You need to look for something that has multi-strike capability. In other words, one hit of one bullet won't destroy the plate and make the plate incapable of stopping other bullets. So you got to have a plate that will at least stop multiple rounds from a rifle. The second thing I want to tell you is there are certain designs like the steel that create problems. They create trauma to the chest. They create frag problems into your body. When the bullet hits, it disperses instead of being absorbed, and those dispersed fragments go into your face, your chin, your legs, cause all kinds of problems. So you want a design of a chest plate that will absorb the bullet, not fragment the bullet. That does a couple of things for you. It reduces the shock load to your torso, and it keeps the frags from hitting you. It solves several problems. And the other thing I want to tell you is the thinnest plate, which may be the most convenient to wear, may not be the most effective in doing the previous two things that we talked about. So there's nothing wrong with having a 3/4 inch thick plate if it's light, if it's strong, if it's multi-strike capable, if it absorbs and disperses energy over time so you don't shock your torso from the impact of a round.
Are they still manufacturing or selling these ceramic plates? They were the hot thing a few years ago.
Well, a lot of plate designs have fabric and ceramic or silica, a number of different things in them, and they work very, very well if they're in the right matrix.
Okay. All right. Well, this is an evolving situation, like anything in any industry, where there's always new technology and things to be learned. And that's where you come in at Freedom Center USA, because you stay on top of what's the latest and greatest, don't you, sir?
We do, and we test things. We buy plates and we shoot them, and we see if they stand up to the NIJ rating that they've been given. And we make sure that they do, and we measure the shock, the impact force transmitted to the shooter. We have a gauge with a telltale, and when we shoot, we can measure the compression of that gauge, and it gives us a lot of information about how the plate performs. And that's what we want. We're trying to sort through this stuff so the average person who doesn't have the time or the money to do all this testing can actually get good information and make good decisions on the products they buy.
I remember Command Sergeant Major Page talking about how the Army was anguishing over the fact that women, when they wear their body armor and helmet, they look like a little turtle, because women have such usually pretty short necks compared to the rest of their body. And they were anguishing over how to rectify that, which I doubt they ever will. What do you think?
I could care less what the Army does with women.
Why am I not surprised?
You know they are changing the PT standards in the Army.
Well,
I don't know if you knew that.
Well, they've been doing that for half a century. That's nothing new.
Well, here's the thing. For half a century, they've been lowering the PT standards for women. They're about to be the same for everybody.
Right. But they'll be low enough that everybody can pass them. That'll be the whole point.
No. I don't think you know what's going on there, John. I'm telling you that it's about to get tougher for women to stay in the Army. So it used to be.
Needs to.
Yeah, of course it does. It used to be that you needed to, based on your MOS, there were certain criteria or standards for men. So if you were a musician in the Army band, you didn't have to do as many sit-ups, as many push-ups, as many pull-ups, and as much of a run as someone who's in Special Forces. So the criteria was based on the MOS. But then when women entered the picture, they lowered the requirements, the physical requirements for women in the military. And everybody complained about that, particularly the warfighter. And since now they have allowed women to enter combat roles, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole today, but now that they have allowed that, people decided that men and women should all have the same criteria, and that's a really good thing. So now they're doing this thing where you have to pull up on a bar, and you have to bring your knees up and touch your elbows. So you have to do the pull-up and then be able to kip up your knees to touch an elbow to qualify as one repetition. So now they have the run standard, this kip-up, pull-up combination exercise standard, and they have the push-ups and the sit-ups. So, and it's going to be the same for men and women. And I hear rumors that only about 19 to 21% of the women can actually pass this standard.
Well, I don't want to continue too long down this road, but when I was in basic training in 1967, more than half a century ago, every soldier, it didn't matter what the MOS was, every soldier had to be able to pick up a soldier of equal weight. So a 150-pound soldier had to pick up another 150-pound soldier, fireman's carry, and trot around a quarter-mile track. If they couldn't do that, they wouldn't be allowed to be a soldier, in the band, a typewriter, drive a truck, anything. They had to be able to do that first. Almost no women can do that, Sam. Almost none.
Yeah, so it's less than 3% of the women that can actually do that. But I would say this. People need to understand that only about 20% of the people in the U.S. Army are warfighters. The other 80%, 4 out of 5, are support and logistics. So it takes 4 people in our Army, the way it's structured right now, to support one person on the battlefield.
Well, that's true on one hand. On the other, in every major conflict, including Iraq, we've had these rear echelon logistics people. Amy England was one of the more famous ones. She was captured, that end up in combat inadvertently. That happens.
There's a famous.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a famous story about an F-16 pilot being shot down over in Serbia. And I think they even made a movie about the rescue. But the interesting part of the story is if you know the background of the real situation, the interesting part of the story is this, and that is that they called the Air Force the moment the guy was shot down, because we had some Navy surveillance stuff in the air. And they called the Air Force and said, hey, one of your boys has been shot down. He's alive. You need to rescue him. And the Air Force said, great, we can get to him in about 12 hours. And the Navy Carrier Battle Group commander said he won't survive because there's hundreds of troops tracking him, trying to find him and kill him. He won't survive 3 hours. And what they did was they went into this Navy aircraft carrier, and they got a bunch of Marines that were cooks. They got some Marines from a heavy mortar platoon, and they combined these guys. Probably half of them weren't warfighters. They were logistics guys, and they put them on helicopters, and they went and got that Air Force pilot out. And your point about situations occurring where non-warfighters may have to pick up a rifle and do the job is valid, and there are several examples, probably many examples that we don't even know about.
Oh, hundreds of examples. The Tet Offensive, of course, which I was part of, everybody, all Americans ended up being in combat to a greater or lesser extent. I thought these never-ending wars would be the end of females in the military within a year or two, but I turned out to be wrong. Now we have photographs of smiling American women that are missing arms or legs or both that survived combat and became amputees. That's just wrong. The country I grew up, we were to protect our women, not to intentionally put them in harm's way. Something's really upside down here, Sam.
Well, I think that with equality comes freedom of choice. And if a woman chooses to join the Army and she wants a combat role or she wants a logistical role where she's sitting in a convoy vulnerable to an IED, I'm not sure there's a whole lot we can do about it, John.
Well, there's 2 parts of that. First of all, everybody listening in this country has a post office within a reasonably short distance, which has cards at the post office to sign up for selective service. On that card, there's 2 boxes to check, male or female. Why would they have females sign up for selective service unless they were going to be drafting them? Number one. Number two, an 18-year-old young woman graduating from high school has limited knowledge of war and combat and will be lied to by an Army recruiter and her parents, if necessary, reassuring them that their sweet young daughter will not be in harm's way because she's going to be a clerk typist. So they can't make an informed decision because they don't know the real deal and are lied to by recruiters. That's an absolute disaster waiting to happen, in my opinion.
Well, I think that dishonesty in recruiting is an ongoing issue in our militaries right now. And we're not talking about conscription. We're talking about a guy walks in, says, hey, I'd like a job in the military. I'd like to do this job. And then they steer him to a different job and say, oh, you'll be able to transfer from this job to that job in a year. And it almost never happens that way. I think we've got a dishonesty problem. I know that in the Civil War and in the Revolutionary War, the first war in America, that we had women standing side by side loading rifles for men and passing them guns and moving ammo out on the battlefield. And a lot of people don't realize that. But, you know, when it comes down to the survival of your way of life, at some point the women have to get involved. It just always seems to work out that way.
In total war, that happens, and that's just an unfortunate thing that happens in total war, which is brutal and barbaric. Getting back to the topic at hand, which is Firearms Monday, do you have any interesting classes coming up that people might want to be signing up for, Sam?
Well, we're going to post a reloading, precision reloading class here, should be in a week or two. We're going to do another long-range class in October. And then probably the middle of October, we're going to do an advanced long-range class. And if you have taken the introductory to long-range shooting class and you have decent math aptitude and you want to take your shooting past 1,000 yards, learn how to make first-round hits from 1,000 to 2,500 yards, you can sign up for that class if you've got the equipment and the prerequisite class finished.
Well, something for everybody, something for beginners, entry level, and intermediate, and then world class, because not too long ago, it was thought to be pure luck to hit anything a mile away. But now it's become a routine matter for men or women who have proper equipment and proper training, correct?
Absolutely. It can be done, and it's done every day at the Freedom Center. I'll tell you a really funny story about my wife's family when we were dating. Her family grew up in Wyoming. They basically helped settle northern Wyoming. And they have killed, the men in her family have killed hundreds of elk since the late 1800s. As a matter of fact, one of them, I think, even found his wife. It was a mail-order bride. And it's a really interesting group of very strong ranching-type people. And when we were dating, my soon-to-be wife was explaining to her mom and dad that this guy I'm dating, he shoots stuff past 1,000 yards. And her father looked at her with the most stern of face and said, well, you need to find someone else to date because that man's a liar. And so I sent them pictures of trophies I had won in long-range competitions that actually said 1,000-yard competition on them. I sent him a picture by email of about 17 trophies that I'd won in rifle competitions for long range.
Right.
And, did that cause a rift between me and her father?
I thought that would have been put it to rest, it would seem like.
I paid for being right.
Oh, no. Okay, I know the attitude. Yeah. We'll be right back after the break. Monday. It's the last day of September, visiting with Sam Andrews. This is Firearms Monday. If you got a question or comment regarding anything regarding the gun culture, rifle, shotguns, pistols, training, ammunition, optics, give us a call at 800-313-9443. Well, it's an unfortunate circumstance to get off on the wrong start with your future father-in-law before you even meet him. I hope that's since gotten better for the two of you.
Oh, yeah. We worked things out. I took a rifle up there and took her brother out, and we went out to his range and showed him kind of the technology and the trajectories and why it works the way it works. And, you know, he came back and explained to everybody this stuff is legit and it's amazing and it's way too expensive. He's not interested.
Okay, well, that was a good outcome, as good as could be expected. People, and this is a man who had spent his entire life, beginning probably around 8 or 10 years old, around firearms, using firearms on almost a daily basis, and hunting big game all his life, probably beginning as a teenager, if not younger. And he thought he knew everything there was to know before he met you, didn't he?
And her brother has killed elk at 400, 450 yards. I mean, and for him, that was like one of the longest shots anyone in his community had heard of. And right. So, you know, it's all based on experience. You know, what level of experience do you have and what do you think is possible and what's your equipment capable of? You know, if you have the time to invest, you can learn to make first-round hits at 2,000 yards. It's entirely possible now. And it just takes time. It takes a little bit of money. It takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of training. But it is eminently doable.
Well, that's good to know. And there's, once you get that far west, those kinds of ranges are not unusual at all. Where you can see forever. It seems like there's no trees.
Well, there's plenty of trees in Wyoming until you get above the tree line, you know, which is around 10,500 to 11,000 feet, depending on where you're at. But it's doable. There's lots of farm fields in Missouri you can take long shots in at deer. There's the eastern third of Wyoming where you're in the high plains from 3,000 to 6,000 feet above sea level, and you can take long shots at antelope. That's really a great place to train a long-range hunter, is in the eastern half of Wyoming, where you can take these ridiculously long shots at a relatively small target called an antelope.
Yeah, antelope is relatively small, about the same size as a white-tailed deer, aren't they?
Yeah, the does are typically smaller than a white-tailed doe by just a little bit. You know, in Missouri we have some pretty big white-tailed deer, so I would say the white-tailed deer are just probably 10% larger than the typical female antelope. Of course, out there they call them speed goats. They don't call them antelope.
Speed goats, I like that. We got a break. We'll be right back. Remember, Prepper tip of the day, I want to encourage all of you to inventory your stored food, rotate your stored food. You don't want unpleasant surprises in the future when you need that stored food. So inventory it, check it out, and rotate it. That's your Prepper tip of the day. This is Firearms Monday. We're taking questions, calls, and comments about rifles, shotguns, pistols, ammunition, optics, training, legislation. Here at Republic Broadcasting, the call number is 800-313-9443. Visiting with Sam Andrews, the proprietor of Freedom Center USA. That Facebook page is Freedom Center USA. Sam's telephone number down there in beautiful Lebanon, Missouri is 417-718-2597. Speed goats, that's pretty funny. Yeah. This is training to take these animals at 2,000 yards. That's a fairly new concept, isn't it?
Well, it takes a different set of tools in your toolbox. It's not new. We've been doing it for a while in the military, but it's really caught fire in America, the long-range shooting game in general. The tactical matches, the steel tactical matches, the sniper competitions, the 1,000-yard bench rest competitions. And I would encourage people, if you have the time or the money, to get involved in some of that competing, because you'll learn something. You'll take something away from that that's of value. For example, with the bench rest shooters, when I shot bench rest in my 30s, and of course I'm 60-plus years old now, but when I shot bench rest in my 30s, I learned about the vertical component of wind drift. I got introduced to that concept. It became very useful for me at longer range. When I did silhouette shooting, I learned about timing the trigger brake. That helped me shooting movers later on in life. And so each one of these types of competitions, you'll learn something. You'll take away a couple golden nuggets or a couple of diamonds from that experience that you can apply in a tactical sense.
Well, that's good to know that these skills are available and the training is available, and for people to make use of your decades of experience, so they don't have to repeat the decades of time it took you to acquire the skills you've got now, do they?
Right. You know, if you have the right instructor, somebody with a broad range of experience that has real expertise in the area that you want to learn, it's so much faster. You don't have to unlearn things. You're not doing things the wrong way. One of the problems I have with the most series, the Missouri Steel Tactical matches and some of the other PRS matches that are out there, is they're training people to do things the wrong way. And so when they come and take a tactical rifle class, we have to untrain them on all the lousy habits that they've developed competing in their matches. And for example, they use barricades in one form of longer range match, kind of a mid-range match, usually 200 to 800. But they use this series of barricades, different types of places to rest your rifle. And you're always sticking your muzzle out past the barricade, and you're always doing these things like they're dialing their knobs, all these things that you can't do in the dark in a gunfight at long range, or you certainly wouldn't want to do it.
Well, you know, sticking a barrel out where it can be seen is incredibly stupid, isn't it?
It really is. You know, if you're hunting antelope or mule deer or elk or white-tailed deer, you can stick your muzzle anywhere you want. Those animals tend not to shoot back.
But when you're up against it, right?
As a general rule, they don't shoot back. So, right. as a general rule, you're probably going to survive the encounter. But when you have men with rifles and thermal and night vision and training, and you're going up against a sophisticated opponent that can shoot back, any one of these silly little mistakes could cost you your life.
Well, I noticed in some of the film renditions of what's been taking place in Iraq and Afghanistan, they've done I recall the film Shooter, not Shooter, American Sniper is what I meant to say. They did a pretty good representation of having the sniper back in the room, away from the window, a good 8 to 10 feet, so that the muzzle blast wouldn't be obvious either. That's a pretty accurate representation, in my opinion, isn't it?
Yeah, in urban sniping, of course, you're using things to control light and to control muzzle blast and dust. There's a whole bunch of techniques that we train people on for urban sniping. One of the scenes where he was on the rooftop and he had all this shiny stuff, brass facing the enemy, that the sun would shine off of. I got a kick out of that because there was about 17 things going on wrong in that scenario. But, and I'm not a huge Chris Kyle fan. I'm not a huge fan of the movie American Sniper, but if you are shooting from a building, you don't want to stick your barrel out a window. You want to have a screen over the window to control the light the way it's viewed from the outside. You want to be back in the room. You want to have things around the muzzle that control the muzzle blast and the dust. There's all kinds of little tricks that you learn to keep yourself from being identified.
Well, out in the bush, out in the field, you simply take a canteen and sprinkle water out to keep the dust from coming up when there's muzzle blast, correct?
Well, you can do that, but, modern rifles have suppressors on them. If you're shooting from a hide, if you're in the sniper business and you're shooting from a hide, you better have a good suppressor, and you better have a flash system on the end of that suppressor, and that flash system better not be throwing any gas at the ground, and, you better have a ground sheet covered in local debris, and weighted by a couple of long sticks. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you do. Back in the day, they used to sprinkle a little water to keep the dust down, but you shouldn't be having those kinds of overpressure issues hitting the ground if you know what you're doing with modern equipment.
Well, us old guys know old techniques like myself, don't we?
Well, yeah, and back in the day when they didn't issue cans, what else could you do but throw a little water out and hope it kept the dust down?
Yeah. Well, you work with what you got. That's basically what it comes down to. In Vietnam, we very often used pieces of equipment, what might be called politely off-label usage, using canteen pouches for ammunition pouches, for example, would just be one thing. But you do what you got to do with what you got, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you have to be quick about it. I mean, you've got to improvise a solution in the field that, you haven't been trained on. But you can't train someone on every scenario. That's why these experienced sergeants and stuff were so valuable. And, that's why lieutenants in Vietnam lasted an average of 14 minutes on the battlefield. Experience matters.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing more dangerous on the battlefield than a young second lieutenant who thinks he knows everything. The wise one, we had a young lieutenant when I was back at Bragg in the 6th Group. He was being deployed to Vietnam, and our sergeants spent a lot of time with him attempting to teach him what they could and advise him. And it turned out after he was in Vietnam a few months, he disobeyed an order by refusing to go down a trail because he saw signs that he was told by the sergeants to look for, and he saved his whole team. By not going down that trail, they would have been wiped out by a massively superior force. But a kind of expertise is waiting for people at Freedom Center USA to be learned, isn't it?
Absolutely. You can call us and sign up for a class. You can sign up for private instruction if you don't want to learn in a classroom environment with other students. We have a lot of flexibility on different ways to get you trained up.
That's good news. I know when I was down there last time, there was an Army sniper who was there, active duty, brushing up on some skills. And you help a lot of active duty guys, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We have some USAS guys and some other people come in, and we give them ideas about things they can take back to the school, and transfer that knowledge. There's a lot of things we don't train our basic snipers on that I wish we would, but you have to pick and choose because you have a limited amount of time to get guys trained up and a limited amount of money to do it. And I just give them the information. And then, they'll pick and choose what they want to include in their course when they make the next round of changes to the course. And they're constantly adapting. We're literally trying to double the size of our special forces, double the number of snipers in our military. We're literally working on this right now, and it's a very difficult task because not everybody's cut out to be a sniper in the military. Not everybody has the physical characteristics. Not everybody has the math aptitude. Not everybody has the marksmanship aptitude. And so it's a tough order.
I would characterize what you're saying differently. Hardly anybody has that combination of everything. It's a tiny, tiny percentage of men who possess all those aptitudes and characteristics, isn't it? Well,
and it's a small percentage, but there's plenty of guys out there. And I learned working for DoD as a contractor and working in this field of training. I learned personally that the country boys, the guys that grew up on ranches and farms that bow hunted and had good fieldcraft instincts and also had high math aptitude, those guys were the best to train for ultra long range. sniping.
Those were
the guys you wanted.
I could see that. I mean, yeah, absolutely, I can see that. That certainly is a good fit there. But the men and women listening to us now, very few of them are going to want to achieve that kind of skill set. They're going to want to learn how to protect their family, protect their property from criminals, possibly from a foreign invasion. That's certainly always a possibility. And these entry-level skill sets are waiting to be learned at Freedom Center USA. And obviously, if a person wants to go on from there, they can do it. But the average guy or gal will want those entry-level skill sets and probably just do a home instruction after that, won't they?
Well, what we like to do at the Freedom Center, which is different than everybody else, is we like to get them the most foundational things in place and then give them steps and drills, things they can train on their own. And when they invest the time in these drills on their own after the class, then they're ready to come back and take a second class. And we found we can get people's level of skill to rise much quicker by doing it that way and much more cost effectively for the student.
Absolutely. Well, Lebanon, Missouri is a pretty easy place to get to, right off Interstate 44, just 10 minutes off Interstate 44 there in south, what I would call it south central Missouri, I guess. And airport not too far away. It's about less than an hour drive to the Springfield airport or so. So easy to get to, and there's nice accommodations, very reasonable motels and restaurants right there nearby. So there's no reason not to go. There's every reason to go, isn't there, Sam?
Yeah, there's no reason not to go. You know, Lebanon sits on the north side of 44 and on the south side. The Lebanon airport is 2 miles on the south side of Interstate 44. The Springfield airport's just 15 minutes away, and it's right on Highway 44. So and you've got the largest Bass Pro facility with the museums and the aquarium, the new aquarium, everything, all within 45 minutes of us. There's probably 5 hotels within a 5-minute drive of the range and 5 to 6 minute drive of the range. So you have so many options. You can trout fish at Bennett Springs while you're here. I mean, it's just a beautiful place in the Ozarks, and it's a great place to come and learn a little bit about how to defend yourself and how to be more effective with your firearms.
Well, it sounds like a win-win situation to me, and people need to avail themselves of this. And, of course, you can help people on the telephone, too, such as putting together a kit to repair a rifle if something could break. You can do that.
We sell a lot of those kits for different guns, you know, where we've got a spare firing pin, a spare extractor, some of the critical springs that may tend to fail. We change a lot of bolt releases on ARs. They break the most. If you have a stock bolt release on your AR, change that thing out. Get a billet bolt release for your AR-15 or your AR-10.
Well, okay. It just needs to be done. There's no sense questioning why. It's a vulnerable part.
They break all the time. That's the why.
Right.
It's the least reliable part on an AR-15. They break all the time. And you can get them from Wilson Combat, and there's other manufacturers out there. But get yourself a legit bolt release for the rifle, for your AR-15 or your AR-10 that you plan on defending your home and family with. That's the first thing you need to do. It's a $25 part. Make the change. Get off your wallet. Buy the thing. Get it installed so that your gun will function when it really needs to.
Well, I was talking to a friend just Saturday. He recently bought an AR-15, and I told him he needed to get it down to you to have it converted to being piston-driven. He said he's already got an upgraded trigger on it, but that bolt release would be one of the things that you would offer him, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. You know, when we manufacture ARs, we use ambidextrous controls on our receivers. The receivers are a little different. They have ambidextrous controls on them, so you can shoot it right or left-handed. We have billet parts on them. We have 60-degree safeties, not 90-degree safeties, So you can go from on-safe to off-safe and back to on-safe without ever changing the fighting grip that you have on the gun. And there's a lot of little things that we do that make fighting much more efficient, economy of movement, everything's quicker, everything's crisper, everything happens in less time, and it allows you to manipulate the gun and keep the gun running in short order.
Well, those are all things that people may not be even aware of as possibilities. Here's our break. Call number is 800-313-9443.
Republic Broadcasting Network depends on listener support of our advertisers and of our sponsors. We'd like to especially thank all of you who have taken advantage of our fundraiser with FrontSight Bonus. Those who are now FrontSight members, please train as soon as possible for your sake and for that of our nation. And please consider sharing your training and what you've learned when you arrive home. Republic Broadcasting Network has to stop promoting this fundraiser on air and on the website in just a few days. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, president of FrontSight, made a gracious exception to his no media rule for us at Republic Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Dr. Piazza. And once you've been to FrontSight, feel free to call your favorite host and share your experience on the air. We can continue this fundraiser without media help, but it'll be totally up to the listeners to spread the information. Please call Dan Sutterfield in Missouri at 573-465-2356, 573-465-2356. That's 573-465-2356.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Monday, the 30th of September. Yes, indeed, we are going on a cruise. This will happen. This cruise will take place. We'll be gone from the 9th of February back the 16th. And it'll be fun. It'll be educational. If you choose it to be, it could be romantic. Leon Green will be with us. Sam may be with us. We're waiting patiently to find out if his wife's available for this vacation. Details at my website at thelibertyman.com. If you don't have internet access, you'd like a nice full-color brochure, give our cruise director, Betsy Murphy, a call. She'd be glad to mail you one. Betsy's telephone number is 636-530-9502. I say again, 636-530-9502. This is Firearms Monday. This is your opportunity. If you got a question or comment about firearms, anything related to firearms or gun culture, give us a call at 800-313-9443. Let's continue, Sam.
Well, John, I've been getting a lot of calls, probably 10 to 15 a week, from the listeners, asking me about what sequence should I do things in. And they say to me they're a little bit frustrated that we recommend all of these different things that need to be done, and they just want to know what's most important. And I think it's probably worth a few minutes to talk about
Absolutely.
Where everybody's at and where should they be. Okay, so the first thing that you should do if you already own a firearm to defend your home with is make sure you have a lighter, faster, more frangible bullet for ammunition to defend yourself with. That's probably the first thing to check. The second thing I would check is that you have a tactical light on that weapon, that you can attach a bright light with a momentary switch that will function on that weapon. So if you have frangible ammo and a tactical light on a weapon, then you're capable of defending the inside of your home to an intruder in the dark. Now, the third thing is to make sure that you have sights that are on that weapon system that will work in the dark. That might be tritium sights if it's a handgun. It might be a red dot sight if it's an AR-15. But you have to have something that allows you, if you're outside the home and you're not at point shooting distance, you actually have to aim with sights to hit the target or eliminate the threat, that you have the ability to do so in the dark. The next thing on the list for me would be to make sure that I was defending my home with a suppressed weapon. Problem is, the days of the lone burglar and the lone rapist are gone. There's 5 to 7 people that are going to hit your house if you're a target, if they want your stuff or they want you dead. It's going to be a group of people. So you need to have a high-capacity magazine. You need to have a suppressor, because the second you light that firearm off inside your home, you're going to be deaf if you don't have a suppressor on it. Your hearing will disappear for 15 to 20 minutes. Your ears will ring. You will not hear the guy breaking a window to come in the side. You will not hear the guy coming up the stairs who broke in a basement window and is coming from a different angle. You lose almost 180 degrees of situational awareness when you fire a gun with no hearing protection on and with no suppressor on your gun. A suppressor for home defense is way more important than most people give it credit for. And that's something that I would seriously look at if you're planning on defending your home or your community. It just is that important in the real world when the shooting starts to be able to hear. Most people don't grab their ear protection when someone kicks their front door in.
I would say that'd be a pretty rare thing. Well, the quicker that process begins for getting a suppressor, the quicker that turnaround time finally comes to an end, which is, the turnaround time is now how long, sir?
Generally between 8 and 11 months.
Whoa, baby. Yeah, that's a long time. So if a person was to place their order now, they may get their suppressor possibly at the beginning of summer next year. Maybe. Well,
and if things break down, your dealer may just give you your suppressor if you paid for it and your application's been sent in. You never know. If the society breaks down and you've at least started the process, you might wind up with something workable in your hand. You just never know. And but if you don't do anything, you're not going to be prepared.
Once the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms stops answering their telephone, then all bets are off, aren't they?
Yeah, they rarely answer their phone now. So it's
okay.
But and it's worth a call, honestly, to all the listeners out there. It's worth a call to call your representative and call the 2 senators for your state and tell them that the wait time for suppressors is ridiculous, it's illegal, and it needs to change. Hire more people or abolish the rule.
Well, the Hearing Protection Act was designed to do that. Well, and of course, it was introduced when we had a Republican majority in Congress, and for whatever reason, it never got passed while we had a Republican majority. I think that may change again, and I'll start saying 12 months because it is the last day of September. And if we got that much time, which is a big if, isn't it?
Well, with the impeachment proceedings and all this stuff being pushed, there's no way to predict what's going to happen. We're in a very unpredictable portion of our time in this country. Absolutely. So it just pays to be prepared ahead of time.
It does. We got a break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Jared Moore here on Monday, the 30th of September. Well, we've added a new image to our list of images found in movies and TV shows. Images of continents with different coastlines, new coastlines. It's a fun project, and you can participate. This is all the listeners doing this. I couldn't possibly do it by myself. If you're watching a movie, watching a TV show, and you happen to see a photograph, an image of continents with different coastlines, new coastlines, get that screen capture to me. As a thank you, you get your choice of any of my 6 DVDs. It's a lot of fun when you keep that moving forward. If you're tired of waking up tired, well, why wouldn't you be tired of waking up tired? Get yourself an energy cleaner. Get a great night's sleep. Sleep as good as a small child every night like I do. $285 shipping included to American zip codes. The mattress pads, well, check out the mattress pads that go with it. They vary in price. And, of course, I have a toll-free R line. Don't try to call me. The toll-free R line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. This is Firearms Monday. Visiting with Sam Andrews, the proprietor of Freedom Center USA. The telephone number down there is 417-718-2597. Well, Sam, that's very solid advice that you're giving people on where they should begin and what the proper order would be, and I congratulate you for that, sir.
I appreciate the comment, but I think it's important that people look at what they've got and do an honest assessment. That's really the first thing you have to do. Is this ammo made for what I want it to do? Do I have one gun set up to actually defend my home in the dark? Because what works in the day doesn't work in the dark. And most of the home defense situations actually occur at night. And so having one gun set up, so like some people, they'll have a light on their AR-15, but they don't have they have iron sights on their AR-15. So, that works in certain situations, doesn't work in other situations in the dark. Or they'll have a light on their AR-15, they'll have tritium sights on their pistol. Okay, so they can't use the light with the night sights. You need to pick a gun. Pick one gun, get it ready, get it night sight capable, get a good tactical light on that weapon system, and get a suppressor for it. If you can do that and get the right ammo for it, you will be light years ahead in a defensive situation.
Pretty simple. Doesn't cost a whole lot of money and could make a massive difference in dealing with criminals, couldn't it?
Yeah, and start with one gun. Get one gun ready. Pick a gun. Get one gun ready to go. And when you're done with that, start working on the second gun. Get a second gun ready to go. And when you've got 2 guns, when you've got a rifle and a pistol that are ready to go get some training. Become more proficient with that thing in the dark. Learn how to practice so that on your own time, when you've got 15 spare minutes and nobody's around, you can remove the ammo from the room, throw some snap caps in there, and start practicing your mag changes, start practicing your jam clearing drills. 15 minutes twice a week, and in 3 months, you will be light years ahead of the average person with a weapon system.
Absolutely. Well, I've had any number of students. They show up at my pistol class with a brand new pistol in their possession that they've never had out of the case. They don't know how to load it. They don't know how to unload it. They don't know where all the controls are, how to manipulate the controls. Generally, I just have them lock it up in their car until it's time for range time, and then we go over those things with them. And it's of course, when you're trying to do something unfamiliar with people looking at you, it always increases the level of difficulty. But I'm sure you see the same thing all the time, don't you, Sam?
We do. We see people that are just beginners. We see people that have had military training. They're right above the beginners. And then we see guys that have advanced training from special forces. We see guys that are actually competitive long-range shooters on a world-class level. So we at the Freedom Center, we run the gamut. And even our members, we have some new shooters. We have some moderately experienced shooters, and then we have some guys that are just world-class. And it's a great environment to be in, because if you spend a couple hours at the range on a nice day, you're likely to run into some of these guys that are really, really good at what they do. And you can pick up information from them. You can watch them work. You can see how they're organized. You can see how they go about their bag technique, how they do things. And just by watching them, you can learn a lot.
Absolutely. And that's there's a lot of value there. Just being able around men of that caliber that have those skill sets, just watching what they do, how they do it, looking at observing their equipment, and so forth is invaluable, isn't it?
It really is. I was so lucky as a young man, because I lucked into running into a guy named Ron Hain, who, by the way, just passed away a couple months ago. And this guy had won over 5 world championships in the bench rest community. He and Tony Boyer are considered some of the top bench rest shooters in history. And I ran into this guy. I was trying to win this Browning Boss competition because there was some money involved. And I had this Browning factory rifle that I had purchased in my 20s, and I was trying to win this competition, and somebody said, "You need to go talk to this guy. He's a really good shooter. He might be able to help you." And so I went and talked to Ron Hain. I had no idea I was talking to a world champ. And I got educated in a lot of things just from this one guy. And I learned so much from this guy, I thought to myself, why am I not seeking out these men? Why am I not out there looking for guys like this to learn from? And so what Ron taught me was so valuable that I figured that I really need to go find these guys that are at the pinnacle of what they do and try and learn from them. Now, I had Carlos Hadcock as an instructor in my sniper school. I had Neil Terry as an instructor. I had Harold Vaughn as a boss. I had Ferris Pindell show me how to lap threads on a threaded barrel joint. You know, I had Larry Smart train me on how to bed a rifle. I had these world-class people in the gun industry that as a young man I would approach with my hat in my hand with a humble attitude and say to these guys, "Hey, would you mind explaining this to me? I'd really like to know how this works." And then I'd shut up and listen. And what a great strategy over 20 years to learn from these people that were at the pinnacle of rifle accuracy and training and trajectories. And, you know, Harold Vaughn's the guy that ran the crew of 50 mathematicians that figured out the 6 Degrees of Freedom program to control our ICBMs and let them hit in a 50-foot circle halfway around the world. That was pretty good at math. He led a really good crew of talented guys. But what a blessing to figure it out early in life, to seek these men out and ask questions.
Well, I truly would have liked to spend a day with Carlos Hathcock. He remains one of my heroes. Of course, he's now passed on, but he was the real deal, wasn't he?
Yeah, Carlos is gone, and what he did with a Woodstock Winchester Model 70 and a scope that I'm not sure I could hit the broadside of a barn with, what he accomplished with that equipment is nothing short of miraculous. I think he was guided by the hand of God, you know, and a lot of common sense and an incredible sense of duty. My contact with Carlos, the thing that impressed me the most as a young man was how incredibly strong his sense of duty was. He really felt obligated to make a difference and felt an incredible sense of duty to his country and to the men that fought for this country and its values. And he was a little guy from Texas. He had a deep Texas drawl. He had a truckload of common sense. And he was just a really gifted marksman. He's one of the few snipers in our military that have actually won national competitions. He won the President's Cup at 1,000 yards at Camp Perry, I think, in the 1960s.
Before he went to Vietnam. That scope on that rifle was basically a slightly improved version of what they would have had during the Civil War, correct?
No. I think he used several. I think he had a Redfield scope on for some of his missions. I think he had a Unertl on there. He might have even had one of the early Leopolds at the different
times in his
career.
I'm referring to the Unertl. If I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I met Mr. Unertl, the World War I German sniper, at an NRA convention. It was like meeting royalty. He was so distinguished. But no internal controls. All the controls are on the outside of the scope. That's why I refer to it as being a slightly upgraded version of what they had in the Civil War.
Well, the Unertl scope is an interesting design, not something I'd ever want to have to work with. But you have to understand what Carlos did. He did with almost what I look at as Fred Flintstone era equipment. I mean, Carlos was an amazing guy, and he was an amazing marksman. And he was kind of rough around the edges as an instructor. He didn't pull any punches, but what a great guy to have a little contact with and to learn from. I mean, everybody in my class was starstruck when Carlos walked in the room. We're all just like, there's the man.
That's right.
And he was a really, really good-hearted human being, and he had a great sense of humor. And, our country has not been the same since he passed. I mean, he was a guy that really, really, really made a difference.
When I read his book, and when he would come back, he'd be out in the bush for 3 days, munching on sea-ration crackers and sea-ration peanut butter and drinking a little water. Come back hot and muddy and dirty and tired. And first thing he would do when he got back from 3 days in the bush was clean his rifle. The very first thing. And then he took care of everything else.
Carlos had a knack for knowing how far he could push himself. And a lot of people don't know this, but one of the most heroic things that Carlos did was not kill people with a rifle. One of the most heroic things he did was to save, I think, 5 soldiers that were in a burning A-track. And he went into this burning vehicle and pulled men out multiple times. And it scarred him, it changed him psychologically, it messed up his body and his central nervous system, the damage from the flames. But he literally saved 5 men that were in a burning vehicle. And, you can jump into a burning vehicle and pull a guy out once, but it takes a different human being to go in and get the second guy and the third guy and the fourth guy and the fifth guy. That was Carlos Hathcock.
Well, those injuries from that incident is eventually what took his life, aren't they?
Yeah, that led to his early demise. Was the unselfish act of saving 5 men.
Well, God bless Carlos Hathcock. But getting back to the topic at hand, there's lots to be learned, and we got a place to learn it. That would be Freedom Center USA, and all people need to do is give you a call at 417-718-2597 to get started. And to begin, you meet the students at whatever their beginning point is and take it from there, don't you, sir?
Absolutely. Doesn't matter where you are on your firearms trek, doesn't matter where you are in the pyramid as far as how skilled or how unskilled you are, we can very quickly figure out where you're at and start putting in these foundational pillars that allow you to be effective and careful and safe with your firearms.
Well, that's what it's all about. And you can take them as far as they want to go or give them the basic training. And as you said earlier, just a few minutes ago, give them routines and drills that they can do on their own to continuously improve at their home range, correct?
Right. Now, I remember, I guess, training a group of people from Viburnum or Davisville years ago. And you remember the drill that we did, the El Presidente drill? that we did that kind of incorporated all of the different things you need to keep a gun running in a firefight.
Right.
We can do that drill. If you're not sure where you're at, we can take an AR-15 or a pistol out, and we can do one drill, and I can absolutely, from this drill, watch you perform and figure out every area where you need work and every area where you probably don't need work. And it's a matter of minutes. We can determine what level you're at. And you can even self-determine if you want. You can learn about, you can call me, I'll explain the El Presidente drill. You can do it with a pack timer or with a stopwatch, or have your wife there with a second hand watching the watch, whatever it is you need to do. Have your husband time you. But you can do this drill and figure out very quickly where you're at from a skill-based standpoint. And it's fairly simple. If you're over 12 seconds, you're an absolute rank beginner. If you're between 10 and 12 seconds, you probably have a small amount of experience. If you're between 7 and 10 seconds on the drill, you're probably at the level of someone who's had some basic training in the military or taken 1 or 2 classes. If you're between 5 and 7 seconds, you're probably either a competitive shooter that's been competing for a couple of years, or you're a ranger or a tier 2 asset. If you're under 5 seconds, you're probably a tier 1 asset, or you're probably a professional competitive shooter. But you can, just with a watch and a weapon system, you can basically determine where you're at, and you can decide where you want to go.
Well, that's a good starting point, and once people got that, they have a basis, a foundation to work from, and know where they are, and develop a plan of where they want to get, correct?
Absolutely, and there are things that make you very effective. You need training, but there's also equipment choices you can make that will help you when you start training. Like, I would hate to see someone come to a tactical training class with a pistol that had a 14-pound trigger pull. But getting a good trigger in your weapon system, getting training, just simple things like this, do they add up over time? And boy, do they make you more effective and more accurate.
A friend of mine, he's a security officer for the VA hospital, and he's got one of those pistols with a 14-pound trigger on it. It's horrible. Here's our break. We'll be right back.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Monday, the 30th of September. Well, Sam, these Monday shows just fly by, and we got a lot of great information out there. No calls this hour. That means people are listening. That's good. And it's easy to get started. It's a very friendly, beautiful environment you've got down there. Your facility is beautiful and becoming nicer and better all the time. What's going to be the next improvement down there, Sam?
Well, we just finished pouring 6 new 900-pound concrete shooting benches, and so we're going to move these benches up onto the firing line sometime this week, and then we're going to build construction on the safety deck, which is the platform surrounding these concrete benches, so that if we get an ND into the floor, into the ground, we can absorb the bullet rather than send frags into our neighbors.
Very nice, very nice. Now you inspired me. I think I'll build a little cedar deck out here on my range, so I have a more comfortable place to lay down in a prone position. A lot better than gravel. So it sounds.
Yeah,
good
we're gonna put 3/8 inch clean underneath about a foot, and then we're gonna put 2x8 boards as the stringers for the deck. And then we're going to lay plastic in between the boards and fill them with sand, and then cover the sand with plastic, and then lay the deck surface on top of that. And so we'll have a nice soft catch area for anything that might need to be caught.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, people just need to get down there, make an appointment, call up, check out the Facebook page, Freedom Center USA, find out what class is coming up that you might be interested in, get scheduled on that class, make a reservation, and just go down there and have a great day. Or some of these classes take more than one day, Sam?
Yeah, most of the long-range stuff is a 2-day class, but we have our precision reloading classes. We usually have Sunday afternoons. They go about 3.5 to 4 hours. Some of our handgun training is a 1-day type deal. So, or you could hire private instruction by the hour. If you drive, I have a number of customers that drive up and down 44, and when they're coming our direction, they stop in for an hour of private training, and that's a great way to learn one-on-one with an instructor. You can learn fairly quickly like that.
Absolutely, that's the way to do it. And no time's a wasting. We got just over 12 months before the election 2020, and a lot of prognostications about what may happen. The time to be prepared is now. We've got what appears to be the luxury of time. These 12 months will fly by, won't they, Sam?